Hello and welcome to Journeys and Journals. History is what I'm interested in, and today we're going way back in history. Well, my guest's birth was in
1919.
And you are?
Ardis Smith.
Ardis, where were you born?
I was born in Centralia, Washington.
But then Mom and Dad moved you down south?
I moved down and then they moved down.
Well,
and that I moved down because I had a job down here.
What were your job at?
My job was driving logging truck.
Oh, my goodness.
And after we were down here for a while, we started our own logging company. And it was called C&S Logging Company, and it was my brother-in-law and I were logging for a mill in Goshen, Washington, or Goshen, Oregon. Oregon, yeah.
Now, you knew the Dietrichs and their logging operation.
Yes, I did, yes.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Lots of kids work their way through college working for you guys in the summers.
That's right.
Now, you then have taken on another career, or another career, or another career. Which is it?
Yes. Well, that's ASI there, and that's a doctor's office that we were building in Portland, Oregon, in downtown Portland.
So this is years and years later after you retired from...
Yes.
Now, you had how many careers?
Well, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 changes in the different things I've done.
What was your career in California? That's what I'm interested in.
Well, I worked for Mission Church Builders.
What took you to this interest in San Francisco?
Well, to start with, 2 of my friends, we were hauling logs around Roseburg, and we had a week off, and so we decided to go to Crater Lake and then to go down to San Francisco. And when we were in Crater Lake, I had the only cot, and so I slept on the cot, and the other 2 boys slept on the ground, and I was the only one that was cold. And then we got down close to San Rafael, and it was dark, and we drove off into a side road and put our sleeping bags out on the ground and went to sleep. And the next morning we woke up with trucks going by, and we couldn't figure out what in the world was all the noise, and we found out that we were right next door to a garbage dump.
Very interesting place to shack out, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Now, you got to San Francisco.
We got to San Francisco, and I have always been interested in history, and I love history, and so I got pictures, and there's a picture of the bridge being built in 1937.
That's when you were there?
No, I was there in 44.
Oh.
It was, and I got to walk across it. And,
the Golden Gate Bridge.
Yes. And
so you could drive from San Rafael down and across that bridge.
Yes.
Was it awesome?
Yes, it was awesome then, and it's awesome still. And there's a picture on the other side of in a little different pose. And San Francisco is noted for its trolley cars.
Yes.
And there's a picture of the street, the main street where it comes down to Main Street, and then they turn the car around and go back up the street. And
these cable cars are famous.
they are famous.
And
yeah.
and there's a wonderful thing that some of the guys have beat out a tune on the bell, on the
Yes.
trolley bell.
Yes.
And that
And that-
street is
Have you been there?
Lombard.
Yes.
Fortunately, it's a one-way street, so you don't have to
Well,
worry.
I understand that it's closed now. You can't.
Oh,
they
the
do-
crookedest street in the world is no
Yeah.
longer got my.
What I understand, anyway.
Well, now
But-
you've got stories that go way back in San Francisco history that you
Yes.
told me yarns, and I want you to tell our audience about
Well,
early days.
there was when Levi Strauss came to town and started making
Work clothes.
the work clothes. He put his first factory in San Francisco, in downtown San Francisco. And as the story goes, he had a elevator in the corner of the building that he could drive into, and the elevator would take his car up to the roof, and then he would drive across the roof to his
Penthouse,
home
huh?
on the roof overlooking San Francisco Bay.
Now that would be something else.
Wouldn't it, though?
Any more stories of that? I'd love to learn.
Hmm.
San Francisco's a fascinating place.
It surely is. It's got so much. And so I went to work for a company called McKinsey Builders in Springfield as a foreman for them. And he was a good friend with one of Levi Strauss's sons that had taken over Mark Twain, or what's
No.
the name?
Zane Grey.
Zane Grey's home on the
Rogue River?
Rogue River. And Zane Grey had purchased or somehow got a hold of some acreage in the middle of the what is now the
Wild and Scenic Rogue.
yes, it is.
And that Zane Grey cabin's just been in the news, and it's
Yes.
still there to see. The only way you can get there, really, is by boat.
By boat, yes.
Because it's in the middle of the Wild and Scenic.
Yes.
Now, what were you doing that you made cut the
Well,
lumber?
Yes, my boss was friends with the Levi Strauss son, and they would go down river on a boat to spend a week down there, and they got the idea of bringing a cat in and making an airport.
Ah,
And they had to get an act of Congress to bring the cat across this area that was, what is it they call it?
Wild and Scenic.
Wild and Scenic, yes. And they had to destroy the road as they took the cat back out. And they brought a little Jeep in behind the cat, and it's still there. And they had this airport, and whenever they were going to be there, why, they would call my boss, Bob Black, and tell him to go to the airport that their airplane would come and pick them up. And so this had been going on for 3 or 4 or 5 years, and he would tell us about it. And so one time he came, and they called him up and told he and his wife to be at the airport, and they roll out a red carpet to walk across and get in the airplane. And it was an airport that you had to land. You couldn't fly back out again. You had to land and go in and out the same direction.
Oh, okay.
And they came in, and there were 2 men there instead of 1. And so when they got out of the car, why, they said, Mr. Black, who was my boss, Mr. Bob Black, meet Mr. Black. And so they thought he didn't think anything about it, and so they went up to the house, and here was Shirley Temple.
Mrs. Black.
Mrs. Black, exactly. And so they talked and talked about how they were related and the like, and were decided that they must not be related closely, but some. And about 3 or 4 months later, when Bob Black got a big package sent from Levi that had traced their lineage down, and they were related way back.
The Smith clan.
Yeah.
Well, I've heard some
Black.
wonderful stories about Bob Black, but
Yeah.
he grew up down in Southern Oregon.
Yeah.
And that's a different Bob Black, and maybe he's related too.
They could be. Yes.
Here's this thing about Joe Wheeler. His connection with Zane Grey is that he's the head of the Zane Grey Society now, and was on Better Life TV with me interviewing a few years back.
Oh.
You can go online and see those also if you'd like. Joe Wheeler has the head of the Zane Grey Society, and so he's got all kinds of wonderful stories about Zane Grey.
Well, I'll bet.
We're so fortunate that the cabin was saved, as was the Black Bar Lodge during recent fires.
Yes.
You have more stories. I
Yes.
think we stayed on the phone for
Yes.
hours.
Well, they were wanting something a little bit nicer than the house they were in, and so Bob and the Strausses talked about building something bigger. And so Bob came back to me and said, what do you think we can do? And I said, well, let's build the house here and then take it apart and send it down in pieces. And so we did that, and a man by the name of Chase Trucking took the parts down to a place where it was about 5 miles from the river, as the closest they could get. And they loaded the stuff on a horse-drawn sled that went down to the river, and they call them river rats, men that live on the river, and they put the parts on the boat and went upriver, and my Bob went down and helped install the parts for the house.
Well, I just heard a little bit of that same story from the other end of it.
You did? Well,
Yes.
let me hear it.
There were 2 things that couldn't be taken down that crooked place. that was plate glass, because the bathtub, and what was the other thing? It was an unusual thing that had to go downriver or on the river.
Yes.
So I mean the challenges, as you know, with these recent fires, they had to fight fire by sending the firemen down river on rafts.
Yes. Yes.
It's not inaccessible.
There is no roads in there, and that's right.
I'm anxious to walk in because the Zane Grey Society had their convention here 3 years ago or so down at Gold Beach. And by the way, there's a wonderful museum in Gold Beach that has some of the Zane Grey original books, first printing kind of things, available for astronomical fees, it seemed to me. And you know, this is part of our history. It's Oregon and California.
Yes.
Because Zane Grey loved the properties. He loved to fish around the world.
Yes.
But he also loved to come to Southern Oregon and go on the Umpqua River.
One funny thing that happened, my boss, Bob, was under the house doing some plumbing. And it was hot, and so he didn't have a shirt on, and he was down laying on his back, and he never knew what ran across him, but something ran across the top of his tummy, and he raised up, of course, automatically, and hit his head on a rafter and floor joist, and nearly knocked himself out, and he never did know what it was that that did. But
those forest visitors, or actually we're the forest visitors.
Yes.
It's their property.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, I see you are interviewed by others besides me.
Yes.
This was in Eugene.
It's in Springfield.
And Springfield and Eugene are like San Francisco and Oakland. They're just cheek and gel. You can practically walk from outskirts of one to the other without...
Just across the bridge. Yes.
Now, you and your wife have come down, and I thank her very much. She's chosen to be off camera, but I want to get a picture of her in here so that you folks know that. You've been married how long?
37 years. To the sweetest gal there is.
And she's a school marm?
She taught school, yes.
Until along comes this...
Until I came along. She was all ready had signed a contract to move to Pasco when we were engaged, and she had to call them up and turn it down.
And the next thing that happened was she moved to Roseburg or Eugene?
To Eugene.
With how many little children?
There was a boy 19 and a boy 6.
When you get together, I mean, I was very surprised. I offered, since we only film here in the studio, I offered to have a driver come. He said, why? You not only drive cars long distances, you still go to Arizona, don't you?
Well, no, but I still drive the motorhome. And I just got my new driver's license, and it's till 2021.
And in 2021, you will be?
103.
Look out for this guy. Yeah, and he drove through weather's no problem. Oh, there's another member of your family now, a little fuzzy.
Oh, I should say we have a little poodle dog that we should have brought him. His name is Bandy, and he rules the roost. He tells us when to go to bed, and if he thinks it's bedtime, he lets us know.
And he has some strange habits of, he really wants to go on trips. He wants to go traveling.
Oh, he's in the car most of the day because he doesn't want to get left.
Including coming to Grants Pass.
Yes. He was so upset all last evening. As we were getting ready to come, he knew that there was something going on, and he wanted in the car immediately.
Isn't that something? He is a cute, cute kid. Now, you married a young woman. Mm-hmm. She, when I found out that she's just a couple years younger than I am, or 3 whole years younger than I am, I should say, it's been great.
It has been great, yes.
You've got stories that just won't quit. Why did you go gliding? Why do you go do all these things with Maranatha building churches? Why?
Well, after I quit on my own job, I went to work with Maranatha for a number of churches, and then I went to Mission Church Builders and worked on a number of them. I started out being an electrician and was helping the electrician pull wire, and they found out that I was a cabinet man, and that was the end of my electrical. And when we were building the addition onto the Enumclaw Church, why the superintendent came and asked me if I knew how to cut rafters, and I said yes, and he says, well, come with me, and that was the end of my electrical work there too.
So you've had many careers.
Yes.
Did we leave out any of them?
Well, I don't know. I don't think so. But I've done a lot of things. I built cabinets, and when my youngest boy bought a home in Denver, and he wanted to remodel it, because he is 6 foot tall, he wanted the cabinets to be 38 inches high instead of 36. And so he got bids on it, and it was over $60,000 for
just for cabinets.
Yeah, just for the kitchen cabinets. And so he calls Dad up to come back, and so we spent a whole summer back there building the cabinets. And
it didn't cost nearly so much, and
half.
You had fun.
Yes. One of the cabinets was, the center cabinet was 4 feet wide and 17 feet long.
And now, that takes a big kitchen to be able to fit that in.
It is. It's a gourmet kitchen.
Oh, and he's a gourmet cook.
He is a gourmet cook, yes.
Well, I'd love to meet your kids. It's been great to meet you, and I thank you for coming from Eugene to bless us. We'll look forward to sitting by a fireside someplace on a cool day and listening to the accordion. I hear you entertain.
I love to play. I play usually an hour a day at least.
And your first accordion was how big?
12.
And that's
12 of these little.
Okay.
Yeah.
But was the machine itself a little like a squeeze box?
Well, yes, it was an accordion just like this, only it has 12 buttons. The accordion goes by how many of these buttons it has.
Ah.
And
tip that up and we'll just look at it.
It has
I had no idea when I hear
Yeah.
about buttons.
Yeah,
Same keyboard.
they have a 12, a 24, a 48, a 56, and a 120.
And this is as big as they come.
Yes. Yes.
I guess when you're 94, you deserve the
I
biggest.
never have had any lessons on it. I taught myself, and so I do make mistakes. But I play for myself, and if somebody else wants to listen, why, they can do that.
Well, that's a great ad. Not imposing on anybody.
No.
It's just, I'm glad you enjoy that so much. And
I-
I've enjoyed talking to you very much, meeting you. And who knows where next we'll meet.
That's right.
Maybe on some building project or another.
It could be,
You're still doing that.
yes.
Oh, marvelous.
Yeah.
My hat's off to you, or shaking your hand is plenty.
Yes.
And we'll get that picture of your wife on here yet. Thank you very much, folks, for tuning in to Journeys and Journals. I'm Bernie Martin Beck, and it's just my pleasure to meet people. Again, BetterLifeTV.tv is online, and you can look at shows from the past on Journeys and Journals.